Here are the top stories of the news. President Bola Tinubu says those who threaten Nigeria's peace and security will face full force of law in Democracy Day speech. Rave FM and Western Spring Television management calls on Nigeria police force to respect human rights after illegal arrest of staff. On the foreign scene, drone strike on funeral procession at cemetery kills 4 people in Sudan. Good afternoon and welcome to Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. My name is Damilola Raphael. President Bola Tinubu has issued one of his strongest warnings yet to bandits, kidnappers, and sponsors of terrorism, declaring that those who continue to threaten Nigeria's peace and security will face the full force of the law. In a hard-hitting nationwide Democracy Day broadcast message on Friday aimed at criminal elements across the country, the president said the window for surrender and repentance would not remain open indefinitely. His comments come amid recurring debates over the identity of criminal groups and concerns that insecurity could deepen ethnic divisions in the country. However, even as he vowed decisive action against perpetrators of violence, Tinubu cautions Nigerians against politicizing insecurity or attaching criminality to any ethnic group. Rather than succumb to mutual suspicion, President Tinubu urged Nigerians to unite against the common enemy. The president expressed confidence that Nigeria would ultimately overcome its security challenges and emerge stronger.
Though this year's mood is dampened by the abduction of our children in Yoyo and Borno, we remain hopeful for their safe return. Democracy without security is not solid enough. That is why this administration has chosen both kinetic and non-kinetic strategies to restore peace, declared a security emergency, and approved the recruitment of 50,000 new police officers and thousands of military recruits. Our 2026 budget commits 5.41 trillion, our largest ever, to defense and security. We have moved from training with our allies to precision targeting. In Arege, we degraded ISWAP and command centers. Terror-related deaths are down by 81% since 2015. Over 13,000 terrorists have been neutralized in the past year. But we also keep the door of surrender open. Over 124,000 fighters and dependents have laid down arms since 2023. Through Operation Safe Corridor, we turn our former enemies into citizens because every life saved is a victory for democracy. To bandits, kidnappers, and sponsors of terror, surrender or face the full force of the Nigerian state. These windows of surrender will not remain open forever. No mercy will be shown to those who trade in blood of Nigerians. At a time like this, let us not assign blames or point fingers. Crime has no ethnicity. We must stand united and be assured that the enemies of our nation shall soon be history. We will triumph over terror and continue to build a more prosperous nation.
In another development, President Bola Tinubu has announced national honors for a broad cross-section of Nigerians who played significant roles in the country's pro-democracy struggle, particularly around the junta political crisis. He describes them as individuals who endured persecution, incarceration, exile, and various forms of hardship to secure Nigeria's democratic rule. The June 12 pro-democracy movement remains one of the defining political episodes in the country's history, widely associated with the struggle for the validation of the 1993 presidential election and the country's eventual return to democratic rule in 1999. In a list released by the presidency, the awardees include lawyers, journalists, activists, intellectuals, and military officers who, according to the president, made sacrifices that helped to shape Nigeria's return to civilian governance. Among those honored are late human rights activist and politician Dr. Joe Oke Odumake, Barrister Ayoka Lawane, Tunde Fagbenle, Oladele Alake, Olatunji Bello, Louis Odion, Segun Babatope, Sam Omasheye, Sarah Demola Oshinobi, Bola Bolawole, Lade Bonola, Femi Kusa, Debo Adeniran, and Chief Ayo Okpadokun.
In our history, we remember Chief MKO Abiola, who won a pan-Nigerian mandate transcending ethnicity and religion. We remember Alhaja Kudirat Abiola. We also remember Chief Ganifa Emi, Chief Bola Ige, Chief Alfred Rwani, and Pa Abraham Adesoya, Chief Anthony Enahuru, Alhaji Balarabe Musa, Commodore Dan Suleiman, Bekoransom Kuti, Franco Kori, Athan Wanko, Chima Obani, Sheu Musa Yadra, and the many other heroes and heroines of democracy whose sacrifices helped secure the freedom we enjoy today. As beneficiaries of their struggle, we have a duty to strengthen and deepen the democratic institutions for which they fought. The greatest tribute we can pay is to build a Nigeria where freedom is protected, justice is upheld, opportunity is expanded, and government is accountable. June 12, 1993, revealed the possibility of a true Nigerian nation. The heroes of June 12 secured political freedom. Our challenge is to secure economic freedom. Democracy must be felt in the quality of people's lives, in opportunities for youth, in prosperous farmers, successful entrepreneurs, and the dignity of our workers. The reforms we are undertaking were.
Meanwhile, protesters on Friday took to the streets of Lagos in a renewed End Bad Governance protest, using the occasion of Democracy Day to demand urgent government action on worsening economic hardship, insecurity, unemployment, and the rising cost of living. The protest, which drew activists, civil society groups, and concerned citizens, was marked by peaceful processions and the display of placards carrying messages such as "Free all captives now," "End anti-people policies now," and "For a living wage and mass creation of employment." This protest comes amid the recent coordinated mass abductions that occurred in Oyo and Borno states within hours of each other, as well as hardship. Demonstrators also called on authorities to address the plight of Nigerians struggling with inflation, high transportation costs, and declining purchasing power. Prominent human rights lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, was present at the protest, lending his voice to calls for reforms and improved governance. Elsewhere, the National Assembly on Thursday took a significant step in the quest for the establishment of state police, as both the Senate and the House of Representatives demonstrated eagerness to amend the 1999 Constitution to pave the way for the decentralization of police in the country. This is as the House of Representatives passed the proposed legislation amid worsening security challenges across the country. The passing of the bill was equal to voting by 290 out of the 360 members who attended the plenary. Speaker of the House, Tajuddin Abbas, announced to lawmakers that a faulty electronic system would not permit voting by electronic means, and thereafter urged all members in the chamber to register their presence for the exercise. The bill, sponsored by Kalu and 14 other lawmakers, passed second reading on February 20, 2024. The proposed legislation seeks to transfer policing from the exclusive legislative list to the concurrent legislative list, thereby empowering states to establish and control their own police formations. The management of Rave FM and Western Spring Television has urged the officials of the Nigerian police force to ensure thorough investigations are carried out before arrests are made, calling for respect for human rights. This is coming on the heels of the unjust arrest of the head of news and current affairs of the station, Lekan Akindoju, who was later released in the early hours of yesterday. Toby Joe has more on this.
I doubt I will even be able to eat. I feel really sad. I'm disturbed.
What was meant to be an ordinary workday for Lekan Akindoju quickly turned into a nightmare after armed police officers stormed his residence and whisked him away in handcuffs in what authorities later described as a case of mistaken identity. The incident, which has sparked outrage among journalists and media professionals in Osun State, once again raises concerns about police conduct, harassment, brutality, and the growing fear that many Nigerians face even within the supposed safety of their homes. According to Lekan Akindoju, who heads the News and Current Affairs Department of Rave FM and Western Spring Television, the ordeal began around 6:30 a.m. when loud bangs on his apartment door woke him up. Thinking it might have been an emergency, he rushed to open the door only to find heavily armed police officers waiting outside. Before he could fully understand what was happening, the officers forced their way into his apartment, demanded his phone, and placed him in handcuffs. Lekan Akindoju said despite immediately identifying himself as a journalist and presenting his official workplace identity card, the officers proceeded with the arrest without clearly stating any offense.
I think they went over the fence and burst into the compound, and they started banging on doors. I pulled out my ID card because they told me to follow them. I pulled out my ID card and I told them that I'm a journalist, and so what are you doing in my apartment? They took my ID card, they took my phone, and they put me in handcuffs and told me to go with them and I was asking what was my offense. All they had to say was it was a serious case.
Lekan Akindoju, who is the secretary of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Osun State Council, was then transported to the Police Response Unit of the State Criminal Investigation Department in Osogbo, where police later claimed they were investigating an incident around his area and were searching for suspects. After about 5 hours later, authorities reportedly admitted the arrest was a mistake and released him unconditionally. But for Lekan Akindoju, the emotional impact remains far from over. Visibly shaken after his release, the Osun State NUJ secretary described the experience as traumatic, saying he now feels unsafe and deeply skeptical about returning to his rest.
It's a very sad moment for me, most especially because I'm a journalist doing my job. I've not been involved in any criminal activity of any kind. It did not even allow me to make calls, so it made it difficult for those who were looking for me to find me easily. Before I was eventually found at the office of the PRU. So I feel sad. It's saddening. I do not wish this on anybody, most especially a journalist. A police officer should do their job by ensuring that they carry out investigations. You cannot just come into a compound without proper investigations and you are arresting, putting the person in handcuffs. I presented my ID cards, I spoke to them nicely, but eventually I wasn't treated very well. I wasn't treated with respect.
His arrest immediately sent shockwaves across the journalism community in Osun State as concerned colleagues and media practitioners mobilized swiftly upon learning of his detention. In a statement by the head of station, Peter Agbeshimi, the management of Rave FM and Western Spring Television called on the Nigerian police force to ensure professionalism, thorough investigation, and respect for citizens' rights during operations. The media organization also commended the Osun State Commissioner of Police, Ibrahim Gultan, and the Police Public Relations Officer, DSP Abiodun Ojelabi, for ensuring Lekan Akindoju's immediate release, while appreciating the effort of the Osun NUJ Chairman, Adeyemi Abodere, for his intervention throughout the ordeal. However, Lekan Akindoju's arrest is just one out of the many unjust arrests made by the officials of the Nigerian police force. In a country already battling insecurity, citizens who should feel protected now find themselves afraid not only of criminals but of those entrusted with enforcing the law. Meanwhile, Lekon Akindoju says while he appreciates the swift intervention that secured his freedom, accountability must not end with apologies, further demanding that the officers involved be investigated and sanctioned to prevent similar incidents from happening to innocent Nigerians. Toby George, Western Spring Television News.
The chairman and chief executive officer of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri Erewa, has again condemned the renewed wave of xenophobic attacks against Nigerians in South Africa, insisting that enough is enough. Dabiri Erewa, who spoke in an interview on Thursday, said Nigeria's response regarding its bilateral relations with South Africa would be determined by higher authorities. Her remarks came hours after Nigeria evacuated the first batch of its citizens affected by the unrest. A total of 258 Nigerians arrived in Lagos aboard an Air Peace flight and were received by government officials, including the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Shola Enikunlaye. According to the government, the evacuation was undertaken to protect Nigerians facing threats, harassment, and violence. Dabiri Erewa rejected claims that the affected Nigerians had committed crimes in South Africa, arguing that they were targeted simply because they were black migrants. In other news, an independent investigative panel set up by the federal government to probe allegations of corruption and human rights violations against Nigeria Correctional Service has uncovered widespread inmate malnutrition, alleged abuses in the administration of feeding contracts, and institutional practices contributing to prison overcrowding. The panel recommended an immediate increase in the daily feeding allowance for inmates from 750 naira to 3,000 naira. The findings were contained in the panel's final report submitted to the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, on June 3, 2026. The panel, inaugurated on September 30, 2024, was mandated to investigate allegations of corruption and rights abuses against the correctional system and recommend measures for reform. As part of its assignment, the panel conducted assessments of 86 custodial facilities across 23 states and the Federal Capital Territory, held public hearings, and undertook a study mission to the Republic of Turkey. According to the report, investigators found evidence of severe deficiencies in inmate welfare, particularly in feeding arrangements. The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, has expressed concern over the growing insecurity affecting children in Nigeria, warning that fear and attacks on schools are depriving many young people of their rights to play and develop in a safe environment. Speaking at the commemoration of the 2026 International Day of Play held at the Lagos State Universal Basic Education Board in Ikeja, the chief of UNICEF Field Office in Lagos, Celine Lafoucault, lamented that many children across the country were unable to enjoy a normal childhood due to insecurity and inadequate learning conditions. Lafoucault noticed that children had recently been abducted from schools in Borno, Niger, Kebbi, and more recently, Oyo State, with some of the victims yet to reunite with their families. According to her, millions of children are being denied the opportunity to play because of overcrowded classrooms, lack of recreational facilities, and the prevailing insecurity that discourages school attendance. The UNICEF official called on governments, parents, journalists, and other stakeholders to prioritize the safety and well-being of children, stressing that no child can learn effectively without feeling safe. Also speaking, Executive Chairman of the Lagos State Universal Basic Education Board, TBEB, Dr. Hakim Shitu, said governments and stakeholders must continue to prioritize children's happiness, safety, and development. You're watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break.